Hi, welcome to English Fluency TV, and I hope you are well. In this video, we will be talking about step 4 of learning to speak English. Now, we talked about step 1, the vocabulary, step 2, reading and writing, and step 3, listening. And here we're talking about step 4 of learning to speak English. So what is step 4? Now, step 4 is to practice speaking. You need to practice how to speak. You need to practice every day the speaking. You have to speak the language, because our ultimate goal in the end for us to do this step 1, step 2 and step 3 is to speak the language, because this is our goal. In the end, we want to learn how to speak the language so we could speak and communicate with others. So our ultimate goal is to speak. Now, how do we practice to speak the language? Now, it is always best if you live in an environment where there are people who you speak English with every day, or you have a friend or many friends who you speak with for you to practice English every day. Now, for many of us who don't live you don't live in an English speaking country and you don't have many friends who speak English, how do you practice? Because you need to practice every day for you to improve your speaking, because unless you practice speaking every day, you won't improve on speaking. So how can you practice by yourself every day so that you practice speaking to improve speaking and for you to be confident when you speak the language? How do you practice alone by yourself? Now, the steps I have given you, step 1, step 2 and step 3, let's look at those steps first before I give you a tip how to practice by yourself. Because if you look at those steps, I have given you a full package for you to learn to speak English. And if you follow those steps, and if you keep on doing it, and if you keep on practicing all those steps one by one, or all in one go, you will learn to speak English automatically. Okay, so let's talk about step 1. Step 1, we talked about vocabulary. So when you are increasing your vocabulary or when you are improving your vocabulary, how are you doing that? 1 is by reading, 2nd is by listening, is by watching, and 3rd is by making a list of the vocabulary you already know to improve. Okay? When you're doing that, make sure you read out a little loud so that you could hear and you are practicing as you are making the list. So when you are making a list of the vocabulary you already know, as you are writing, make sure you pronounce, and you pronounce in a way so that you could hear this sound, and you practice to improve. So what you are doing is you are writing and you are also pronouncing, meaning you are speaking. You are saying the words, which means you are getting the practice on step 1. Then we come to step 2. When we are doing this step 2, we are reading and writing. So when you read, you understand how the language is. You understand the structure of language. You also learn the grammar of the language, because reading will give you lots of grammar. And as you do that, make sure you read in a sound or you pronounce the sentences and the phrases and the words as you read so that you could hear. And when you hear, so when you read a little loud and you could hear, you are actually practicing how to speak. Okay, so when you read and you write on step 2, make sure you read and write and you pronounce a little loud so you could hear what you are reading. That way you are getting the practice. Then we talked about on step 3, listening. So when you watch and you listen, or even without watching, when you are listening, make sure when you listen, make sure you listen and you repeat what you hear. That way you could hear this sound, you could hear yourself, the pronunciation you are making, so you could make the adjustment and you could improve. So that way you are also speaking to yourself and you are practicing speaking. So on step 1, on step 2 and on step 3, we are speaking as well as we are doing all those. So we are getting the practice on all those 3 steps. So when you come to step 4, You are already practicing the language, but you need to improve. How? And like I said, if it's always best if you have an environment where you have lots of people who you talk to every day, maybe at work, or you might have a friend or many friends that you talk to English every day to practice. But maybe you don't have many friends, and maybe you don't have an environment where there are many native or English speaking people or friends. So what do you do then? Or maybe you live in a country where non-English speaking country. So what do you do then? So we've already talked about 1, 2 and 3. We are already practicing. The other way you should practice is to actually practice lots step 2 and step 3. But this time on step 2 is reading and writing, and on step 3 is listening, because this 2 is going to give you more than anything to improve your speaking and to practice. Why? Because when you read and when you watch and when you listen, what you do is, for example, just say you are listening your TV chat show, or you are listening to a radio, or you are listening to podcast or audiobook. What you do is you listen and pause, write down that sentence and read it so you could hear the sentence, how you are saying it. Go back to that sentence again and see if you've got it right. Or say the sentence and record, and then listen how you are saying it and how you should be saying it, and practice that way. That will be the best way for you to practice by yourself. Don't just practice singly vocabulary too many times, because if you just practice single words, then your brain will only record singly, and we don't speak word by word, because we have to speak so that your speaking becomes fluent, so you don't stop in between. So if you practice too many times just on vocabulary on its own, then you become like a robot and you'll stop in every word. Okay, because when we speak so that we don't stop. We need to have that flow, so we speak fluently without stopping. And for you to do that, you have to make sure that you practice, and the way you practice is by sentences or phrases. Okay, so practice sentences and phrases and not just words singly on its own. Okay, so what you do is you listen to a phrase or you listen to a sentence and you pause, and then you pronounce the sentence or you pronounce the phrase and see how you are saying it, or hear how you are saying it, and then correct that way. And this is the best way, I would say, for you to practice by yourself. Many would say that you look at the mirror and you go through the words. You learn the words, but like I said, for you to practice the language, for you to speak, you need phrase, you need sentences, because we don't speak just singly by words. We need to connect the words, we need to make our words fluent so that we don't stop in every word. And like I said, if you practice sentences and if you practice phrases, that will be the best way for you to practice speaking. Okay, so just to recap, step 4 is to practice speaking. Okay, for you to practice, it's best if you have an environment where you have many native speakers who speak English, or you have many friends or a friend who you speak to English to practice every day. And if you don't, and even if you do, make sure you practice by yourself by reading a sentence or reading a phrase and then repeating that by yourself, and practice that way every day for you to improve your speaking. And also record yourself when you are saying the sentence or when you are reading the phrases, and then listen how you are saying it and then correct it that way. And that will be the best way for you to practice. So make sure you practice a lot the speaking side, because in the end your ultimate goal is for you to speak the language, and the only way you're going to do that if you practice. So practice lots of speaking, and hopefully one day you will be making videos helping others how you've learned and how to speak the language. Okay, that's it for today, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give a thumbs up, and please do make a comment what you think of the video. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. And thank you for watching. Bye for now.